Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, and I think we kind of got to get started because this is the time we told everybody to be here. So, with that, I'd like to start with the flag salute. Jamie, would you mind doing the flag salute?
Please stand. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate the MLS Forum. We feel is a very important part of the association insofar as we like to bring current topics, current information that will help you in your business. And this month is Realtor Safety Month. And along with Realtor Safety Month, I just feel that we needed to have a speaker on that topic. So just before we bring up our speaker, I would like to start with Dransart Mortgage, our breakfast sponsor. Hope you enjoyed the delicious food that he provided. And let's have a few words.
That's right. Thank you, Jim Murphy. Good morning. I'm Jim Murphy with Dransart Mortgage. I tried to be a little diverse. I've never really done a breakfast thing, so I bought mostly sweets, but I threw some yogurt in there so that you feel healthy, have the opportunity to do that. We're happy to be a sponsor, and we appreciate there's a lot of great minds out there, people that I've known for quite a while and some that I've just met. Real briefly, there is a packet back there, the sign-in sheet. You'll find it interesting. It gives some nationwide and local demographics. It also deals with a couple of issues that you may be dealing with. This was done for a realtor friend, a partner of mine, because one is having to do with buying versus rent, what the difference is. So you'll get this was a $400,000 home. It gives you it's based on about a 4.5% appreciation annually, which is a lot more conservative than what we see right now, but it's fairly realistic. The second page has to do with the cost of waiting. And people will say, well, should I buy now? Should I wait? What do I want to do? So it'll help you with determining that. And there's just one other thought I'll make concerning rates. People are concerned about rates, obviously. Not too long ago, I was watching an old Clint Eastwood movie. And the point of this was there was a scene, the movie was made about 10 or 12 years ago, and he was walking up to an ATM machine. And it was at a bank, and it said, take advantage of our low rates. And the rate was 6.9%. So, it brings it into perspective. Now, if you had to take a guess and throw this out to you, what do you think the average interest rate is over the last 20 years on a mortgage? No, 5.65. Well, my first home was in the 80s. It was 10.5%, and they thought that was golden. And people look at me like, are you nuts? But that's what it was. Now, just last week we did a loan for a young couple. Their rate was 5.625. So we're really right about that same level curve. And 2%, 3%, we're not going to see that again. It just isn't going to happen, unless, God forbid, we have another pandemic or something of national concern. So just a couple of points, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the program, and thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Jim. Dransart Mortgage. By the way, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up at the sign-up sheet at the entrance so that you'll be entered into a drawing, okay? And everybody who's on Zoom is automatically entered. And I forgot I'm supposed to do this. Let's see here, okay. Am I doing that right?
Yeah.
It's the first time I've used this. Oh, well, that was easier, huh?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, our gift sponsor for today's presentation is going to be Sarah Tucker from Home Warranty of America. Sarah couldn't be here today, but she will be using the sign-up sheet as well as everybody's on Zoom. And there will be a gift basket or some kind of prize for your attendance. And thank you, Sarah, for that. We really appreciate it. Remember Home Warranty of America. Okay, so let's bring on our main speaker, Tim Dransart from SanJoaquin Valley Mortgage, currently. Now, Tim has an extensive background in law enforcement, so he knows what he speaks. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
That's a pretty good introduction. The main speaker. That's pretty cool. Maybe I should have him say that again. First of all, this is not a self-defense class. So anybody who came in here thinking that you were going to get to roll on the ground and do the wrist locks and stuff, that's not what we're doing. What we're talking about is realtor safety. It's come to the forefront in recent years that we have to really start developing a culture of safety and trying to protect ourselves, because we all work in fields where we have to go into locations. If you think about it, if somebody was talking to you about a career and they said, hey, how about this career that you can pick where you're going to put all of your personal information out there on the internet, and we're going to allow everybody to look at it. We're going to have people look at you, what you look like, make judgments. And then we're going to give, furthermore, we're going to give them your phone number, and we're going to give them your email. And then with that information, we're going to let them contact you, and we're going to go set up a meeting at a location that you're not familiar with. Who in this room thinks that they would sign up for that job? My guess that if you were to survey 100 different women, they would all say, no, that job's not for me. But it turns out this is the job that we've selected, and this is what we're doing. So because we're putting ourselves in a situation which is vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting your names and numbers out there. You're allowing people to contact you, people that you don't know. And then you're going to go meet this person, right? And sometimes a location you're not familiar with. So this is the conversation that we're starting with before we get on with the program. So I want to tell you just a little bit about myself. So my name's Tim Dransart. I've been in law enforcement, or retired law enforcement. I got hired back in 1994. Back in 1994, law enforcement was as different as real estate is now. It really was. It was a different culture. We were doing different things. So I got to do a bunch of different stuff. I got to handle dogs, and I was on a mounted patrol, worked detectives and special enforcement gang details. But a couple of the things that I think that I did that are very specific and appropriate to what I'm teaching here today is I became a defensive tactics instructor. So I taught police officers defensive tactics for many years. And I also I was the coordinator of a program called RAD. Has anybody heard of RAD? Rape Aggression Defense. It's a self-defense class for women. And in that class, we actually did not only just teach about safety and so on and so forth, but we actually did do a little bit of twist locks, and we taught the females in the class how to fend off people that would be trying to attack them or approach them, and taught them skills and brought awareness to it. I was also the crime prevention officer. So what I did is I would go around and I'd talk about crime prevention. So when you have a home and you're trying to set up your house, you can do things which are going to make you less likely to become a victim of a crime. So enough about me. What I'd like to do is talk about what we can do in this career to kind of bring an awareness about and see what we can do to mitigate your exposure to crimes. So just by a show of hands in here, 2003, let's go back to 2003 if you can. Who had their real estate license in this room in 2003? So almost half, something like that. Well, we had a pretty serious incident happen here in 2003 with one of our realtors. It happened to be a local realtor. It was in May of 2003. Back then, we actually did have internet, okay? And people were going on the internet and they were trying to locate realtors and they, to show them homes. And so one of our female realtors locally here got contacted by somebody who saw her on the internet, okay? After seeing her on the internet, he gave her a call and had a small conversation with her and set up an appointment to go see a home. And he picked a home in a rural area. And back then, how do we look at homes back in 2003? Just out of curiosity.
Google Earth.
I mean, so if you had a client that wanted to look at a home back in 2003, put them right in your car, right? You'd put them right in your car, whether you're a female or a male, you'd have them meet you somewhere. You might even pick them up at their home, something like that. And you'd get in the car and you'd go start showing them property. Well, when you have somebody inside of your car, nobody knows what anybody's intentions are, right? But this was just the standard in practice, right? That was our custom and practice back at that time. Well, apparently he'd been sizing her up. He gave her a different name when he came. So when he had called her on the phone to set up the appointment, he gave her one name. When he showed up, he gave her another name. They looked at homes, and after they were done looking at homes, he said, "Hey, I need a ride up to my car, and my semi is all the way up here in the Pine Mountain Club area." And so who in this room thinks that's a great idea? Great idea. I mean, we're talking about rural area. So she agreed. And the skin was standing up on the back of her back, I'm sure. Took him out there. Well, and while they're coming out to the drive, they're out by Pine Mountain Road. He grabs her steering wheel and shoves her off the freeway. Okay. Where he proceeds to try and kiss her, grabs her arm. She bites him, yells for help. And what does he say? And this is what's really kind of bone chilling is he said, "Nobody's going to hear you out here. No one's going to help you." And at that point, young female realtor in her early 20s being attacked thinks, what? He's going to rape me and he's going to kill me and nobody's going to know about it, right? Nobody. And so he has a hold of her. So somehow she opens up the door, breaks free, gets out, runs. And here's something that she did in this particular incident that I thought was really telling of where her frame of mind is, because I don't know anybody who's been attacked or been in a fight or something, but there's all kinds of adrenaline going, obviously. She's yelling for help and she's in the middle of nowhere. So she takes her hand and she rips it off. She has a necklace. She rips off the necklace and she throws the necklace down on the ground. Why do you think she did that in her frame of mind? It so happens that I was a good friend of her and her husband at this time, and her husband had called me. So I was involved in trying to find her, figure out where she's at. And so she said she ripped off the necklace and threw it to the ground because she wanted to know that if she died or disappeared, they wanted the police to be able to find some evidence. So when all this is going on, she's thinking, I need to leave clue. I need to leave evidence here somewhere. So she actually takes off her high heels. She's wearing high heels, right? Because when we're showing properties, we got to look good, right? She's like dressed up, ends up taking off her heels, running, and she's in the bushes in the middle of nowhere until she's hiding behind trees, and then he drives away. So she like literally hiked frantically in the bushes barefoot. And there's a couple more details that, maybe are not important, but I mean, she like had to take clothes off and put them on her feet. I mean, because she was a mess, right? I mean, just imagine yourself in the middle of nowhere. She finds a motorcyclist who takes her to a fire station. Her husband was a firefighter, and they get him. So do you think this guy was located, apprehended, arrested, anything? Does anybody remember this scenario?
I would say no.
That's a cheater. Okay. Okay, sorry. Well, that could be my bad. I mean, because I put it up there. So no, he was not located and arrested by the police department. He was found in North Dakota. 8 months later, he died of a heart attack in a truck stop, and where he was posing as a pastor. And they figured out that this guy had been doing this. That was his thing. He was posing as a pastor and trying to sexually assault women. That's just what he did. That was his job. So this, when we go back to, like, we're talking about this job that we have, this really cool job that gives us a lot of freedom. We're able to make a really good career, good living, but we have to be aware. We have to create a conversation of doing things that are going to put us in the best light. So let's talk about some of the things in this situation. What did she do right, do you think? What did she do right?
She fought her attacker.
She fought back. That's a big one we're going to talk about. And what about any of the other positives? Yeah, she left clues. Like, she didn't want to think, oh, I just, went on a hike and disappeared. No, we got a necklace. One of the things I did not touch upon is that she had a sixth sense. I will call it a sixth sense. She had a weird sense about this guy for some reason. And so she told her husband that, hey, I'm going out here. This is where I'm going to be, so on and so forth. And so she let him know where they were showing properties. So when she didn't return, he was on it quick, and he knew something was wrong really quick. So she was calling us, hey, is she with you? So on and so forth. No, we started making a bunch of calls, and within, 5 or so hours, we got the call that, hey, she got attacked, and, somebody brought her off. So it was, although it ended up well, let's talk about, and I'm not going to try and get into what people did wrong, but now that we have an understanding of the outcome of what happened here, what do we think that this realtor could have done better? What would we say she didn't do? Rhonda? Right? That is now turned into an industry standard, right? So industry standard, we don't let people in our cars. What else do we think could have happened that might have changed the scenario? Take somebody with you, right? So you're going to show somebody a home in a rural area. You're going to take him home all alone as a female. So yes, take somebody with you. Sure.
Bring them in your office and interview them and get a copy of their driver's license. And
Absolutely.
Somebody at your office.
Yes, absolutely. You want to identify them. What's the first thing when you walk into Walmart and they have the greeters at the door? Do you know what that's for? Do you know why they do that? Is to reduce the risk of theft, right? Because once somebody knows that you see them, then you can identify them, right? Now you've got a witness and you can identify them, okay? So that's, does anybody have any more questions or comments about that one? Because I got another one, okay? So we're gonna move on to another. Okay, has anybody seen this picture? Beverly Carter, beautiful woman, young, vivacious, talented. She's a broker, successful. Let's talk about Beverly for a minute. She lives in Little Rock, Arkansas. She's married, she has a family, okay? She's a broker doing very well, highly successful. And so she's done internet marketing. We're 2014 now, right? Who's been a realtor since 2014 in here? Okay, so she knows the deal. She understands that she works in a field that could be dangerous. She understands this. So she is acting appropriately, okay? So she receives a call from a client, somebody identifying themselves as a client, and it's not just a male, okay? It's the female. In this case, the husband was scouring the internet, actually looking for a victim. It's actually what he was doing. He locates Beverly Carter on the internet, and what makes him decide that he's going to target her for attack? This is by his own statements and going through. He saw her picture and she looked like a rich broker. So he's dehumanized her, right? So this is what happens when people victimize people. They don't look at them like human beings, like we look at our neighbors and stuff. He's looking at her as a target, as an opportunity to get some money. That's all he's thinking. And him and his wife have this conversation after he identifies her and thinks that she might be an easy target. Now, I don't know about you, but I look at that picture and that easy target does not jump out at me, right? I don't look at that and think, oh, I'm going to go take advantage of this woman. But for whatever reason, he thought that she looked like a rich broker. So he uses his wife, okay? He uses his wife and she calls and she sets up the meet. And they set up a meet they say they're cash buyers. And she sets up a meet for her last showing of the day. So when they show up, she never comes back home. But what she did before she left is she told people in her office where she was going. Again, that sixth sense, right? Furthermore, she had come up with a code word. Could I just by a show of hands in here, and this is going to make sense when we pull this up a little bit closer. Who in this room, by a show of hands, has a code word with your husband, with your office worker, with your assistant, something? If something is terribly wrong. I see one hand, two hand, three, four. Okay. So this is becoming more of an industry standard. This is what we're talking about when we're creating a conversation of safety. This is what we're talking about. Had I had this conversation in the early 2000s, everybody said code word, I don't even know what you're talking about. But in this case, Beverly had a code word with her husband and her friends, and it was red folder. So if anything's ever wrong, and I text you red folder, you know something's wrong. And if you text it to me, I'm asking you if something's wrong, right? We need to know. So anyway, that was just a little piece. So she's practicing standards of safety already. She's identifying where she's going with her husband, lets him know what time the showing is. She has a code word, right? She has her cell phone. And she goes out to this rural property at 6 p.m. It's her last showing of the day, and she didn't want to do it, but they were cash buyers, right? Who in here is going to turn down a cash buyer, right? It seems like too good to be true. Well, she never comes home from that particular meeting. Okay, so the husband, knowing where she's at, and her coworkers knew where she was at as well. So they are looking for her. They start a search. The husband actually drives out to the house, finds her car unlocked and open, and goes to the house. It was the house that they were showing, unlocked and open. Says, there's something wrong here. Calls the police. They get there. I'm going to try and speed this up a little bit because I do tend to talk. Police get there. They find a witness who's a neighbor somehow. So through the information that Beverly had taken, which we're also going to be addressing in this PowerPoint presentation here on safety, she had documented some information on the suspect, and he gave her information. I mean, this guy was really smart. Him and his wife were really smart. So after gathering that information and the information from the neighbor who was a witness, the police went over to a possible residence. And as they're pulling up, they get into a high-speed pursuit with the suspect. He sees him, identifies him, gets in a pursuit, crashes his car. They arrest him. He ends up copping to the whole thing, but saying, no, I didn't do anything to her. His wife, who set up the meet, pleads guilty. Okay, she pleads guilty. And I think I put some of this in here for to spoiler. So she pleads guilty. And when they talk to him, and this is what he says, no kidding. He thought she was just a rich broker. Easy target. He just thought she was a rich broker. That's how he selected her. He didn't know her, hadn't followed her, hadn't done anything. That's how he selected her. So the wife who set up the meet, they ended up killing her. Police ended up going to a old work site of his, and they found her partially buried with her elbow like out of the sand at his old place of residence. That's when he decided to cop out to it. Well, first he decided he copped out, then he decided I was not serious when I copped out. Anyway, he was sentenced to life in prison, kidnapping, murder, got life without parole. Now, the wife who set up this whole meet, and let's go back to the simple fact, this woman was married, had children, had an extended family. She's been murdered. They're not ever gonna have her back, ever. And right now, as we speak, because I did a little bit of research on this, she's been in prison for almost 8 years, and she's applying for early release because her involvement wasn't that great, right? So yeah, and chances are with the criminal justice system that we've got going on right now, which I'm not going to talk about, she might, what if she gets it? What is that going to do to that family who's lost their life? Okay, and their family. Anyway, so I don't think there's any better way to start raising awareness, and I'm not trying to scare you guys to death, but to understand what can happen so that we can prepare and start developing a plan of action, something that's going to help us mitigate our risk to the best of our abilities, okay? So let's talk about safety plans a little bit here. Just show of hands, does anybody have a safety plan or know what a safety plan is? Like when you're going, I mean, you might have things like, yeah, I'm not gonna let that guy in my car and I'm gonna let him go. But let's talk about some specific plans that you guys might want to implement into your life as you're showing properties as a realtor. Don't agree to a private showing unless you've already met the client. Who in here already brought this up? You already said, get to know your clients. Just meeting somebody that you don't know what their true intentions are. My wife is a local broker, and I can't tell you the number of stories that she has. Like once I started doing this, she started bringing out all kinds of stories, how people have tried to get her into houses, tried to get her back into rooms. And so she herself has tried to really like implement strategies to separate herself and be aware so that she doesn't put herself in a bad situation when she's showing a home. When you walk into a home, and this might sound odd, but this is something that we regularly teach in like rape, aggression, defense, and self-defense classes. You need to identify your home's exits before you show a home. You should be semi-familiar with any unknown area that you're going to walk into with a stranger. That typically includes getting there 5 minutes early, opening up doors, and seeing what are avenues of escape in the event that something ever did happen, right? Because if you walk into a room and you have no idea where you're going and somebody corners you and you don't have any idea where you want to go or how you're going to get there, you're at a disadvantage, more so than if you understood your area that you're in. What about this one? If I'm a realtor and these flags represent a door and I show up to a house that I've never been in, and I come over here and I start messing with the lockbox, and I'm over here and I've just given my back to my client that I don't know, who in here thinks that's a good idea? In defensive tactics class, one of the things that we teach is never give anybody your back, because it's your most vulnerable situation, right? So why would we put ourselves in the most vulnerable situation that we could put in when we're entering in? So as soon as I open the door, if somebody wants to make a move, that's it. That's the time, right? They've got your back, they're behind you, they can force you and control the situation and the movement. Let's get to identification. When you're showing a house, we like to leave identification, leave a purse, a wallet, and something in your trunk, in your locked trunk. If anything ever happened and somebody thought something was fishy and they open that up, they're going to know exactly who they're looking for, right? So you have identification, contacts, whatever it might be. Who in here thinks it's a great idea to wear expensive jewelry showing houses? Obviously, somebody might look at that and think, formulate something in their head that this is a rich broker. They got all money, they're not going to miss it, right? And we say shred all documents that include personal information. Obviously, you have stuff on the internet. You're going to have a picture of yourself, your phone number, your email, but we want to avoid giving people in general more information than they need. So when you're putting stuff out there, like I try and get myself out there. I have to market too. And I think about it when I'm marketing. What am I going to put on my card? I'm going to put my name, phone number, my email, maybe how to apply. But I'm not going to put like, oh, this is my house where I live. So when you have this personal identifying information that gives people more information than needs, then you're going to put yourself at risk. Okay, moving along. So I wanted to just go through some examples of safety, just some things that you can do. When we talked about this, always meet clients at the office, a neutral location. You could meet them at Starbucks. Share your schedule with colleagues, with your husband. Does everybody have a phone? And you can have a calendar, which is going to delineate your meetings, where you're going. Communicate your safety concerns on your listing. So say in this case that we're going to a rural house and I don't have any cell phone service there. What might I do in this situation? I'm showing a house and I know that I don't have any cell phone coverage there.
Put your gun in your.
Yeah. Well, something that you might do is ask the owner for the Wi-Fi password, so that when you walk into the home, you're not only do you have cell service, but you have your GPS on so that your phone can be tracked, right? And you can make a call if you need to. Do not host open houses alone. And I recognize I'm gonna have to say we don't recommend it, because we know that people are hosting open houses alone, right? This is an industry where we're hosting open houses. I know that speaking from the company that I'm working with, Watson, we have partnered as lenders with many of our realtors, and we're doing open houses with them. And it really seems that the new culture, and when I talk to the new realtors coming in, they're like, I don't want to do an open house alone. Whereas before that used to be an industry standard. It's starting to change a little bit, where they want to do an open house with a lender, or have their husband drive by, or something that makes them feel more comfortable, right? Make sure your phone is working. When you go there, don't go with a dead phone. You're going to have clients walk in front of you. When you're showing houses, you don't want to be going in when they're behind you, leading you into spaces that you don't want to be in. Don't go into attics, crawl spaces, garages, anything like that where you could be trapped, right?
Maybe you're gonna cover it, right?
Yes.
There's a lockbox on the front door lock. How do you open that without turning your back to them?
That's a great question, and I did touch upon it a little bit. Preparedness. Okay, so when you're showing a property, so if you're showing a property to your best friend, right? It's your friend, you're all high school mates, and you're not concerned. Maybe that is not going to be at the forefront of your concern. But if you're showing a property to a client that you don't know, right now you might want to get there a little bit early and open the house prior. Or because now it's all electronic and you're coming up with your phone, maybe just not putting your back so that you're watching people around you. You're watching your environment, because a lot of times people work in concert, okay? A lot of people that are committing crimes aren't just showing up alone, right? So say you're opening up a lockbox and you can see him standing back, somebody standing back, and they're acting nervous, and you look and now you see his partner drive by in a car or a suspicious vehicle. Just being aware and not putting your back to a client is just good practice. Not just, and you can't avoid every single situation. And I'm not trying to sit here before you saying that you can avoid every situation, but what we can do is take a totality of circumstance, and we're going to look at the factors that are going on in your life and make sure that as you're making decisions, each decision that you make as a realtor, you're doing this with the mindset of safety and not putting yourself in a disadvantageous position.
Like
Okay.
it would be for somebody that's going to find, see one home, not maybe a couple of homes. They're
Yes.
trying to see that one particular.
Yes, I mean, and there's nothing that anybody's going to tell you that is going to 100% stop any ability that you're going to have of being attacked. Otherwise, there'd be no crime ever committed. But criminals are looking for opportunity. What we are trying to do is mitigate opportunity of somebody to commit a crime against you by being aware, by paying attention to your surroundings, by making sure that you're making proper notifications, by making sure that everybody in your network knows what you're doing and that you're making good practices. And most importantly, listening to your sixth sense, because that when your body, when the hairs on the back of your back or neck stand up, you need to pay attention to that each and every time. That's essentially what I'm saying. Rhonda. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's real. I mean, this is, we want to protect ourselves and make sure that we're, at least mitigating our risk as much as we can. So I'm going to talk a little bit about now, and this might sound a little off base for a second until I start talking about it. So I was a crime prevention officer. And so what we tried to do as when I was in my position as crime prevention officers, we're trying to mitigate crimes before they happen, as opposed to responding to a crime after it's happened. So in the 1960s, as like we're getting this urban sprawl and we're getting all these people coming in, the police departments, they partnered with the community to try and mitigate crime. So they came up with called CPTED, crime prevention through architectural design. And what that essentially is saying is, and I'll try and brush through it a little bit, but I want you to be aware. When you're showing a house that has lighting, do criminals typically like to commit crimes in the light where everybody could see them? Okay, so house lighting, fencing. What about having fences that suspects can hide behind? Be aware of those. Be aware if there's fences. Some people have fences and some people don't. Hedges, when you have high hedges, if I'm being chased by the police and I'm running up to a house and I see a high hedge that I can hide behind, I'm most likely going to take that one, right? That's where I'm going to go. Trees, make sure your trees are trimmed up. And spikes and thorns. When I say spikes and thorns, what comes to mind? Roses, cactus, something like that. Well, if you have hedges and you use the perimeter of those, like with like a rose bush or something that makes it hard for somebody to get under a window, for example, you're going to deter somebody from trying to get, by your window, right? It's a deterrent. So, crime prevention through architectural design. So as a criminal, I might want to come up to a window and have to be screwing around trying to break in it. But if there's cactus or, rose bushes, it's going to be hard for me to do that. And then debris, keep your house clear of debris. And so maybe I'm going to give you a picture. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, but let's look at this house right here. This is the same house, okay, that came up. If you're a realtor and you're going to show this home and you're coming up to here, and it's in a rural area, how many spots can you see that a suspect has to hide? They could come and try and take advantage of you. And now we're gonna, after, we're gonna add lighting to it. We're gonna cut down the debris. There's not fencing that's holding you in, and it's just something to be aware of. And not only that, but as you're talking to your clients, which home do you think would sell easier? Like so let's not just look at it, there's a safety issue, but then there's also presentation, right? Which house would you rather walk up to as a realtor or a potential buyer? So it's just something to think about. So we're closing up here. I just have a couple more slides and I'll open it up if anybody's going to have any questions. But I want to talk about some safe practices, okay? I just want you to be thinking about lighting, shrubs, bushes, blind spots when you're walking up to a home. Be observant, pay attention to what's going on around you, right? That's what we're talking about here. Have a routine that is centered around safety. Have knowledge of your clients, however you have to do that. Like we had some really good thoughts, like, hey, meet them in a coffee shop, meet them, get to know your clients, know what they're about, what their objectives are, see if they're real clients, because we've all had real clients and fake clients, just like I have real borrowers and not real borrowers, right? Notifications, you want to notify people, clients that you're working with, and you want names, addresses, license plate numbers would even be better. We have phones that, if you're getting a weird feeling, you could take a picture of somebody's license and text it to your husband or your assistant. Be aware of your surroundings, look at the windows, the doors, your exits, and before you go into any home, you should have a plan. Have a plan. If something ever were to happen, what would I do? What would that look like? Okay. Have a code word for trouble. I know that I was actually surprised at how many people actually did have a code word for trouble in here. That's really good, because that means that it's starting to take on and people are starting to take their safety personally. Be observant. Look for cars, when you're pulling up to show a house, look for cars that are out of place. Look for nervousness, like when I was a police officer, that's one of the first things that I would look for in people is when I'm talking to them, are they avoiding eye contact with me? Are they shaking? Are they looking around? Are they doing stuff? Because when they start doing that stuff, I know they're getting ready to run from me, right? They're up to no good. So listen to your sixth sense. Usually you have this God-given sixth sense that will help you when you're getting in a situation that's not good. Listen to that. And again, I said, document license plates, document names and locations. You should know who you're showing a home to that you're going into in case anything ever does happen. And remember, safety first. Hopefully this presentation was not too long and I was able to hold your attention. And hopefully you will take this and it will help you start to develop a safety plan and an awareness of what your safety looks like. So, yes.
Well, I'll start with, we have one note here from the chat from one of the participants on Zoom asking, it says, who can see your message and recording on? And I'm not sure, it seems to be the end of it, so I'm not sure if there was anything else, but it sounds like there's 2 points there.
Okay.
Recording on, I'm guessing, is your phone. You can turn your record on, so
okay, that's
why you're there.
Yeah. So I guess we're talking about evidence, right? So if you are in a bad situation, and there's a couple things you could do with phones now. They do a lot of different things. You could start taking photographs of the surroundings. You could even take a photograph of the suspect who's trying to get you. You're starting to feel something, you take a photograph. And the other thing you can do is you could turn on your phone recorder and you could record everything that's going on, right? Maybe it might be difficult if somebody's attacking you, but if you're starting to feel that, that's definitely a good plan. Yes.
I was actually thinking about that photograph taking of vehicle and sending
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a license plate. Absolutely. Yeah, especially if you're feeling something. Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, the first thing that came to mind was, oh, that's a little off-putting, right? You're taking a picture of somebody's car,
Yeah.
and it's like, the first thing is, oh, what are you taking a picture of my car for? It said, oh, it's a standard practice for the office, just it's like, it's no big deal. This is what we do, and in every situation, it's probably just fine. And if somebody really objects to that, or they don't want to show you their driver's license when they meet you at the office, maybe that's not a client you want to deal with, and you just be polite and say, no, we're not going to do it.
The president's too, if you show up at, see somebody, you're on, here's, take a picture of your license plate, hi, how are you? Oh, already got my info. That might kind of, that's it, change the mindset of somebody that's trying to attack, like, oh.
Absolutely. Yeah. Suspects don't want to be seen or identified. I mean, they don't. A suspect is not committing a crime because they want to get caught. They're trying to commit a crime because they want to get away with it. Yes. It's a really good practice. It's a good custom and practice. Have a custom and practice that has to do with safety, your own personal safety, and things that if anything were to happen, how would you get it? And it's all that idea of plan. Also taking a self-defense course. Has anybody in here taken a self-defense course? And I don't teach it. I taught for over 10 years. I taught the RAD class, and actually in 2003, when that incident occurred, I did a RAD class at Cal State Bakersfield for, I think, probably 6 or 7 realtors took it because it was a big deal here, and it was very helpful. But I can give you crib notes. Don't be a victim. Don't succumb to your victim. Don't succumb to your perpetrators, whoever's trying to attack you. You don't just sit there and do nothing. You want to say things like no, stop, words that are really intended to stop somebody and let you know that you don't like what's going on. Never be passive. And we don't teach people to get into an MMA fight with suspects. What we teach them to is to resist and to strike and then create distance. Okay. Strike, create distance, and then run, disengage, and yell, no, stop, help, those type of things, if you're ever in a situation. So, yes.
I think one of the important things is doing phone calls or you get a call from like who's housing catch fire or whatever.
Yes.
And we go, okay, and I the lady up there. 200 is the deal.
Right.
And
yes.
I think we need to stop and think and say, well, I'm going to have to do funds.
Yeah, great. Call them. Yeah.
Yeah. How do we know? We don't know. I mean, buyers have a misconception if they're going to sell their home, they're going to have cash, but they don't have cash until they have to get a escrow.
Yes.
They don't get that. And the other thing is to obviously have a group. Say, well, I'll show them the money, get that call, but probably need something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in a pre-approval, right? Yes. Yeah. That's a very good practice. Absolutely. So, yes.
So yesterday I found
Okay. Okay. Yes.
But I told my husband where I was going.
Yeah.
And it's with a client that I was sister and I have a pre-call on him the third time I met him. And they're all very But yesterday it was weird because I showed up at the house, and I was car and I got a friend that the store's down below me. It really makes sense. Like the house is like get in.
Yeah.
So you're fucking with all this. Oh, I know all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you do this
uncomfortable. Yeah,
So
Yeah.
you told me a little.
good.
I always say I'm down on the picture.
Yeah.
You know, I don't do all that.
Yeah. Great, great.
Another thing we've done too is, my husband will call me, find out on what,
Yes.
usually because he's missing me and wants to come home.
Yes,
But it's a good, people call when you're coming home, because it's about time for that appointment.
it seems like
So
fair,
there's
yeah.
that communication, your phone's ringing, you know, my mom is still living. I would tell my mom where I was going, I was still working, so I would tell my mom, going out on this appointment, this one, why don't you call me in 30 minutes, to make sure everything's okay? I
Yes,
got ready to do that business, so I just tell them, hey, rather than me call you, call me in about 15, 20 minutes, if you have a word, as you said,
the code word,
everything's okay.
absolutely, yes.
If it's with somebody I've never gone out, you know, no property to before. So
Mhm.
I think being proactive, that person now knows somebody's calling you rather than if you're in trouble, you're calling.
And this is not for, this is more just for purposes of me looking. Who in this room has been put in a position where they really felt uncomfortable showing houses? Just a little, you don't even have to, I don't even need to hear the stories, anything. Yeah, so this is something, this is not obscure. I mean, if you looked around the room, I mean, hands went up all over the place. So this is something that is out there. There's some creepy people out there that are looking for opportunity. And the fact that you are here and that you raised your hand and you weren't a victim shows that you did not provide them an opportunity, possibly, and therefore you escaped becoming a victim. So just keep that in mind, being aware, making good choices, being observant, having a plan, recognizing where you're at and how you got there. So thank you so much. I've taken much of your time. Appreciate your time.